You're not because of TJ.
No, it is because of TJ. Because I hate India. I don't want to be here, but I'm here for him. He is the only reason I'm here. He's the only reason I have to put up with you.
Oh, you hate India, do you, Kimberly? Well, maybe you might want to return those crystals you use and drop the spirituality act, because I've got some bad news for you about where a lot of those ideologies came from.
If you don't respect, get out of our house.
So we find ourselves in this episode in the middle of an argument between Kimberly and TJ's brother Yash. As I'm sure you recall, last week, in preparation for her wedding, which is less than a week away, Kimberly went shopping with her future brother-in-law in order to pick up some jewellery. But before long, they were butting heads about who was actually sacrificing the most, TJ or Kimberly. And as the temperature rose, Yash crossed the line by calling Kimberly stupid. And that's where we rejoin the action in this episode.
Don't you dare ever call me stupid. Because I am not.
Okay, you are the wisest person in the world, okay? Then now you are happy with it?
No, I think you're being a smart ass.
You are Einstein?
Look, I'm no Kimberly fan, but Yash is almost as annoying, isn't he? The two of them are two peas in a pod, and the worrying thing is, with both of their outspoken personalities and both being quite short-tempered, neither is willing to back down. They're both as stubborn as each other.
Please understand what I want to say. I'm not you confining.
I understand what you're trying to say, but I'm trying to let you know that this is constricting to me. Do you not understand that?
Kimberly turns into such a hypocrite when she feels like she has a point to get across. She's constantly talking over people. She's constantly demanding that they understand her or listen to her. But she never gives back the same respect. But Yash isn't used to being spoken to in this way. And judging by the look on his face, he can't believe that Kimberly's daring to challenge him.
What's the meaning of marriage?
It's a partnership in my country, but apparently in yours it's not.
It is more cultured, more mannered in India than US, okay?
Now, Yash sees Indian society as being more polite than American. That's the same view that TJ had previously expressed. And by that, I assume they both mean it's more polite because Indian women don't answer back. They don't cuss and swear like Kimberly does. But Kimberly doesn't see that as being polite. She sees it as Indian women being more controlled and subservient. She points to that as evidence of India having a misogynistic culture. Now, in all likelihood, the truth lies somewhere in between these two extremes. But these two just aren't ready to find any middle ground.
You make him king, then he will make you prince.
He's already a king, and I don't want to be a prince. I never want to be a boy, and please don't touch me.
That could have been the perfect opportunity to end this argument. They could have used that mistake, prince and queen, ha ha ha. They could have used that as an opportunity to just take the heat out of the situation. But neither is willing to do so. Kimberly is too stubborn. And Yash, well, Yash is too sexist. He has a real issue with a woman talking to him like this.
Say, this way you cannot talk me, okay?
I asked you, I said please. If you want me to say don't touch me, I'll say that. But I didn't say that, did I?
Now, of course, Kimberly is well within her right to tell Yash not to touch her, especially if it makes her feel uncomfortable. But Yash clearly doesn't know how to respond to an opinionated woman. He doesn't like being spoken to like that. And as gross as his attitude clearly is, he now feels disrespected. And that perceived disrespect is about to lead to this conversation spiraling out of control.
You're not because of TJ.
No, it is because of TJ. Because I hate India. I don't want to be here, but I'm here for him. He is the only reason I'm here. He's the only reason I have to put up with you.
It's funny because Kimberly's convinced herself that she's this positive, happy, cool, spiritual, go with the flow kind of girl. But in reality, at every opportunity she gets, she shits on India. She makes it clear she has real problems with the country. She doesn't like being there. So if she hates it that much, why does she stay? Like, if TJ's the only reason she's there, well, that's not a good thing. She's basically living with his family. She's going to need to learn to adapt. She's going to have to get on with them. But right now, that seems a million miles away.
You don't deserve any love. You
you
abused TJ and my family. If you don't respect, get out of our house.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, if my future brother-in-law were saying those things to me, I'd be concerned. It's an interesting insight into what privately the family really think of her. The funny thing is, even in the heat of the moment, even for as much as she hates India, classic stubborn Kimberly isn't going to let Yash win. If he tells her to get out of their house, she's gonna spend the rest of her days there.
You have no idea who I am. I'm here because I love TJ and I want to marry him and I want to spend the rest of my life with him. And if that's in India, I'll suck it up.
You have no idea who I am, she says, in a kind of threatening way. Now, I don't know who she is, but she does seem like the kind of girl who might actually follow through with that threat, purely out of spite, just because she doesn't want to lose an argument. She's gonna stand her ground. She's not gonna change for anyone.
I'm never gonna be just like them. It's never gonna happen. So I'm gonna stand my ground. I'm gonna be who I am. And Yash is gonna have to deal with me the rest of his life.
Now, despite that threat of Yash having to deal with her for the rest of his life, the truth is, for there to be any peace, these two will need to learn to compromise. Like, TJ's family can't expect Kimberly to completely change her identity in order to fit in. But the opposite is also true. Kimberly can't expect to move to India and have her life remain exactly as it was.
And the way Kim is behaving, it will make things harder and I can never be in favor of her. She has to leave us. We cannot handle you.
I know Yash is being serious here, but he's also being unintentionally funny. He's got his hands in the air, literally begging Kimberly to leave. He just wants her to give his family peace. Now, the argument needed to end eventually, and I'm sure when Yash got home, you can bet he told his parents. But when we join them later that evening, when TJ has obviously come back from work, TJ assumes the role of peacekeeper. He takes his future wife and his brother to a nearby coffee shop, and that in itself, taking the argument away from the family home, away from the prying ears of his parents, seems to be a positive development from TJ.
I'm very concerned about the future because Yash will be living always with me, even after he is married. So Kimberly can ignore Yash.
That for TJ is black and white. There's no middle ground. He will always live with his brother. But the truth is, Kimberly isn't used to this kind of family dynamic. Like, by her own admission, her family life back in the States was hostile. Her mum and her dad went through very bitter divorce proceedings. She never felt like her mum loved her. She was always singled out and treated differently. So I think that's actually an important point to make. That Kimberly's not used to the harmony that needs to exist in a joint family household. But in order to regain peace, in order to restore that harmony, both Yash and Kimberly will need to take accountability for their actions. But right now, Kimberly isn't ready to do so.
I feel like Yash has the most controlling voice in his family. And I don't want that type of hatefulness to spew on any of us.
Kimberly entirely blames Yash for what happened today. She calls out his behaviour and she makes herself a victim to it. But in doing so, she's taking no responsibility for her own contribution to that argument. She also said some hateful things. So now, with TJ by her side, is she willing to try and bury the hatchet?
What to eat, what to wear and where to go, it's entirely your decision. But ultimately, it can, if it is hurting someone's sentiment, it can also affect the relation. That all I am telling.
So is Kimberly tired of having this conversation? Or is she purposefully acting more timid and demure tonight in order to make Yash look like a bully? It's a very different attitude to the one we saw this morning. But when Yash tries to explain his stance, he can't help himself from getting animated. And in doing so, he's fallen directly into Kimberly's trap.
I don't have any issue with you. Okay? Are you okay with it?
Not
Fine?
the way you're acting, no.
No. No.
But it's okay.
From my side, it is resolved.
Okay, great.
I'm saying I have no grudges with you.
Look, the way that Yash is acting here makes it really difficult to resolve anything. But Kimberly's also doing the same thing, just in a different way. They're both shutting down their opinions and neither are willing to have a conversation. For as bad as this morning was, at least there was some honesty on the table. Now, it's completely disappeared. But without that honesty, there's very little to work with.
I can't control somebody else's feelings. I can only express my truth.
With more tears, some more tears.
Now, TJ knows he's experienced firsthand what Kimberly's like, so I don't know to what extent he's buying this. But by standing up for her, by confronting and calling out his brother, he's actually creating a crack between himself and his family.
That's how
You are acting like a stubborn here.
Is that what Kimberly wants? Does she secretly hope that the relationship between the brothers, between the whole family, gets strained? Because if that is indeed her plan, it seems to be working.
After this conversation, I will start blaming TJ. And for TJ, Kim is always awesome. But she is not for our family.
Yash is realising that TJ is actually a huge part of the reason why Kimberly acts the way she does. You see, TJ hasn't been honest with her about the expectations of his culture. He hasn't been honest about what life will look like in India for her. He's told her exactly what she wants to hear, so she'll go ahead and marry him. But that's given her a distorted perception of what life will be like. So it's no wonder that Kimberly doesn't see the need to change.
If she has something to do with, just tell her, Kim, I don't want this from the future.
She would not listen.
Why the I'm here, right here? I'm trying to solve the issue now.
Watching these two brothers argue like this over a lady that's set to join their family in less than a week is definitely concerning. If Kimberly really loves TJ like she says she does, this isn't what she wants for him, surely. I can't shake the feeling that Kimberly sees her time in India as being limited. I think her endgame is to take TJ back to America, and that might explain why she seems so uncaring in the face of his family. But if that's the case, when the time comes, will TJ pick her or them?